G'day everyone, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I want to take you guys through 4 of the best shoulder mobility exercises that I've seen as a physical therapist. And they're some of the best exercises that I've seen, mainly because they give you an instant change. There's an instant improvement in your mobility, basically because we're using what's called a power band. So obviously you want to look into getting one of these if you can, but more importantly, you need something to secure it to, but we'll get to that in a second. But the most important thing that I want to get across in this video is that if you are someone who wants to improve your shoulder mobility, obviously, if you just want to improve your shoulder function, or if you're in pain and you're looking for some maybe missing pieces or some hidden pieces to that puzzle, hopefully you might find them with one of these 4 exercises, because these exercises specifically hit sort of 4 different pieces of the shoulder. And if one of those is tight or stiff and you didn't realize, then that can certainly be changing the way that you load your shoulder and set the structures of your shoulder up to become painful long term. Even if you don't have pain, that same process applies to poor shoulder function. So again, by the end of the video, hopefully you'll have a few extra little tools that you can sort of gravitate towards to help you figure out what's going on and how to get better. So as always, before we get into the video, please let me know in the comments below what's brought you here. Like, what are you dealing with? Because this is going to be a shoulder specific video. What's going on with your shoulder? What are you looking to improve? And that information is really helpful for me because it helps me sort of figure out where to take the channel and where to take the videos so that it's very specific and useful for you guys going forwards. And if you do go on to enjoy the video, please consider leaving a like rating down below just to let me know. And also consider subscribing to the channel if you're new and if you enjoy this kind of information, because the information that comes out in these videos is directly taken from conversations that I have with patients in real time. It's based on things that we're finding clinically that work, things that are effective. And if we see this clinically, there's every chance that you guys out there are dealing with similar issues and would benefit from similar issues. So if you want to join in on the ride, please consider subscribing to the channel. So getting into the video, basically, the 4 exercises that we want to do, as I said, require what's called a power band. The power band has basically revolutionized a lot of our thinking around mobility and improving function of joints and tissue. In the case of these exercises, mainly because it helps distract the joints. We can put the joint in a good position, add some distraction, and it really helps address some of the capsular restrictions as well as the more superficial soft tissue restrictions that limit our capacity to move normally and sort of be pain-free long term. So the major hiccup that a lot of people have is that you need something to secure it to. So this can be obviously a squat rack, but for some people that might have to be the railing of some stairs, it might have to be the head of your bed, or something that is about shoulder height for some of this. There's one exercise that we'll get to that requires the band to be up higher. You can do it in this position, but it's a little bit more awkward. It still works really well. But if you don't have that inside, you might need to look outside in terms of a tree or maybe a fence paling, or if you've got a deck or a pergola, same sort of thing. But either way, try really hard to find something to secure it to that doesn't move so that you can benefit from these exercises as well. So the first exercise that we want to take you guys through is one to improve a lot of the tightness and the stiffness that we accrue in that upper back and the back of that shoulder blade. Most commonly from some slouchy shapes that we don't often realize that we get into. The weight of those positions often asks the tissue at the back here to get tight and can really throw off normal shoulder mechanics. Now, one of the ways that we often can stretch this is by doing a very simple stretch that everyone's done before, I'm sure, where you're reaching across the front of your shoulder. Now, some people might find some gentle tightness at the back of the shoulder, maybe at the back of the shoulder blade. Some people may also feel some pinching at the front of the shoulder, which is obviously something we don't want. But with the band, we can take that to a whole nother level. So the most important thing to take from this exercise is that there's a common theme that runs through each of the exercises in terms of the hand position and what's required before you get into the shape of each position. So hopefully you'll pick up on that theme and make it a lot easier so you're not trying to remember 4 specific techniques. It's sort of one technique that then sort of filters into 4 different positions. So the way we want to start this is with the band. We want to slide the hand underneath and wrap those fingers over the top. Now this makes it a lot easier to get a distractive force at the shoulder because you're not having to hold on and use your muscular tension to hold the band. By sliding your wrist underneath so that it's across your wrist and your fingers just gently wrap over the top, you can have a lot of tension on the band without actually having to tense the muscles in your arm. It gives you a chance to relax that a lot more. So what we want to do with this stretch is, again, we want to start in a good position. We're going to have that underhand grip, or that overhand grip, sorry, in this case. The first thing we want to do is step back so that we're getting some tension on the shoulder. Now, we don't want to let the shoulder pull into a bad position. We want to be in a good position, but come back with some tension. And we want to make sure that we're externally rotating or turning the palm up to get a really nice sort of capsular position of the shoulder. Puts the shoulder in a good position so that the capsule or the distractive force is pulling that shoulder in a good position. Now, the idea of this stretch is that we want to then turn our trunk towards the band. Now, I like to block my right hand with my left hand just to hold it into that position without necessarily trying to hold on to the hand. So I'm sort of short-circuiting some of that distractive force. So I've got my distraction, externally rotating, blocking that a little bit with my opposite hand, turning towards the band, so I'm feeling some tightness at the back of the shoulder and through the back of that shoulder blade. And you can maneuver yourself around to figure out where the best position is for you. And for me to really wind this up, I really like hinging from the hips, poking your bottom out. It just adds a different layer to that force and really starts to attack some of that shoulder blade tissue. And the idea with these stretches is we want to stay here for about 60 seconds to 2 minutes. If you've only got a few seconds, it's fine. It tends to be really beneficial almost immediately. So even if you get 5 or 6 seconds out of this, you might see a slight change. Obviously, the longer that you do it, the better. One of the reasons is that in this position, we can start to incorporate that proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation technique, that PNF or contract relax technique. So when you're in this position, distraction, palm up, twisting towards the band and then bending over, wherever it feels tight through my shoulder blade or the back of the shoulder, I can try and tense up. So basically, I want to try and squeeze those tissues, hold them for 5 seconds, and then when I relax, I might find that I can actually go a little bit further than I could before. And I take a deep breath in, give it a good squeeze, hold it for 5 seconds, and then relax. And I want to repeat that process for sort of 30 to 60 seconds, 2 minutes if you can. And what you'll find is straight away, it'll feel looser than it did before. It'll feel a little bit nicer and a little bit smoother. Make sure that you feel that, because that dictates that you've actually made some change. It'll give you confidence that these exercises are really important. Now, the second version of this is more of a chest stretch. So that you guys can see this, I'll switch hands here. But again, it's the same process. We want this about shoulder height, that sort of coming under over the top grip. We want palm up. Again, to put the shoulder capsule in a good position with that distractive force. And then instead of turning towards the band on this side, we're actually going to rotate away from the band as far as I feel comfortable. We're looking for a really nice stretch through the chest area. And again, you want to maneuver yourself to try and figure out where the best version of your stretch is. And once you've found that again, we want to get tight. We want to hold that for about 5 seconds and then relax. And then you might find that you can go a fraction further. Again, deep breath in, give it a good squeeze, tense up all the muscles, hold it for a couple of seconds, and then relax, and then you'll be able to go a little bit further. And then again, you should feel like after doing that those tissues move better than they did before. So that's exercise number 2. First one being the back of the shoulder blade. Second one being the front of the chest. Again, these tissues get tight from bad shapes. The third exercise, again, you can have the band at about shoulder height. This one's a little bit fancier in terms of the position that you're in, but it's essentially an internally rotated position. And for a lot of shoulder pain and dysfunction, we see that we tend to miss a lot of that internal rotation. So again, for the purposes of this video, if you're up in a good posture with your shoulders back, if you have your elbows up at 90 degrees and rotate them down without letting the shoulder come forwards, you can get a really good understanding of how sort of tight or loose those shoulders are. Now for me, my shoulder's been a little bit tight recently because I've been on the computer a lot, but ideally you should be able to get somewhere close to 90 degrees where that forearm goes straight down without feeling like your shoulder has to translate forward to make up the difference. Now, take note of where I'm at, so I won't cheat. But for me on this left-hand side, this feels as far as I can go when I get there without letting my shoulder starting to come down. So if that's sort of 0 degrees, I'm probably getting close to maybe 45, maybe 60 degrees there. It's not quite good enough for me. So again, we're in that same position, so that sort of coming under grip. But this time, we want to put you into internal rotation. So we essentially want you to end up with your hand behind your back. Now you can start really close. If you can't quite get there, you don't have to be facing straight away. You can face this way a little bit. But the key with this is we don't want you in a position where you forcefully dump your shoulder forward. We want your shoulder back. When it be in a good position, this is really crucial because you should never feel any pain or tenderness at the front of that shoulder. You should always feel a lot of tightness either at the side and towards the back, wrapping around there. And what we want to do in this position is we want to be up nice and tall, shoulder back. And then we want to just come out as far as we feel comfortable, sort of increasing the internal rotation of that shoulder and extension of that shoulder until we start to feel some comfortable tightness without letting that shoulder dump forwards. So it dumps forwards, start again, good position, come out as far as you feel comfortable. And then what we want to do here, if you can progress past this, is we want to get you to turn a little bit towards the direction of the band. So we're increasing the amount of internal rotation of the shoulder. So essentially, I don't know if you can see this very well here, I start in this position, I come out as far as I feel comfortable, I can then rotate around towards the band, essentially taking my shoulder into more internal rotation. We want to hold that position again and do the contract relax. So again, good position, coming out as far as I feel comfortable, rotating again around towards, in this case, towards the left. I feel a really nice tightness through the back side of the shoulder, nothing pinching at the front. Again, deep breath in, give it a good squeeze, tense everything in that shoulder for a couple of seconds, then relax. Again, if I can go further, I will. I'll twist and rotate further if I can. Give it a good squeeze for a couple of seconds, hold that, and then relax. And then what you'll hopefully find from doing that is, just from being in that shape, you should automatically feel like it moves further than it did before, without that shoulder wanting to dump forward. So for me, again, trying to make this consistent, I think 45's here, I think I got here before, and now I'm almost probably 75 to maybe 80 degrees based on that. Just from spending a few seconds improving the rotation of that shoulder, so now it moves further than this side does. Again, if you have any shoulder pain, be very gentle and very respectful of how you do the internal rotation version of this, because if you have some shoulder pain and you're letting that shoulder dump forwards in a certain position, it can feel uncomfortable, you can feel sore after doing this exercise. So make sure that you're in a position and you can have the band down a little bit lower if you need to, just so it's easy to get into that position. But prioritize having your shoulders back in a good shape first. You don't have to bend your elbow up if you can't. You can keep it relatively straight, so not completely straight, but relatively straight, before you come out into that extended position and before you rotate further around. But just know that the further that elbow bends, the more internal rotation force you'll be able to generate with this exercise, giving you, I guess, more room to play and then greater benefits long term. So that's exercise number 3, that internal rotated version of the stretch. Really great way to improve the function of that shoulder and stop it from dumping forwards. Now the fourth one of these, again, requires you to have the band up a little bit higher. But again, I'll show you how to do it if you can't fast it to something higher up. But essentially with this, we're doing the same thing. So again, what I want to get you guys to do, I'll do it on this side again. We want to do a test to see how far you can go. So I'll step back so you can hopefully see. Want your thumbs facing forward, palms facing each other, up in a good posture, rib cage down. So we're not going to let the rib cage flare up as we reach up. So rib cage down in a good position. All we're doing is taking our arm up as far as it'll go. So for me, again, with my elbow straight, not bent, this is as far as I can go today. Again, it's not terrible, but you'll hopefully see that after doing this exercise, it might go a little bit further. So make sure that you do that test retest so that you can see the difference yourselves. But what I want to do here is, again, same grip. So coming underneath, wrapping it around there. Now, because the video only sort of captures a certain point of this, I'm just going to reach up a little bit higher. So I still want to make sure that I'm rotating it around. Now, because I'm holding on, it's not going to get as good of a distraction stretch in the exercise, but it's okay because it'll still work in this instance. So again, palm up, so externally rotating that shoulder, and essentially I'm just going to lean forward and sort of come underneath my armpit. And what I want to do here is basically, in this position, I then want to sort of turn my body towards the side that I'm stretching, just to see what I can find down the outside of that sort of lat area, the outside shoulder. It's going to give you a really nice stretch when you do that. So again, rib cage down. We don't want to flare up when we do this. Rib cage down, flexing the shoulder until we come underneath it. Again, you can twist a little bit to sort of figure out where your best position is. And then same thing as before, we want to take a deep breath in. We want to tense everything in the area, whatever feels tight. We want to make that work for a little bit, because then when we relax it, you might find that you can go a fraction further into the stretch than you could before. Deep breath in, give it a squeeze, hold it for a few seconds, and then relax. And then again, we want to do these exercises for 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 2 minutes, but even doing that for maybe 10 or 15 seconds, what you'll hopefully see is that immediately there should be further range of motion than what I had before. So again, hopefully I'm not too twisted here, but keeping the rib cage down. That feels as far as my shoulders can go. And as you can hopefully see, it's a little bit further back than it was before. So again, if you're looking for 4 exercises or some exercises that will give you a really, really quick and effective change in your mobility, you can do a lot worse than giving these power band exercises a go. They're just so important and so useful to improve your shoulder mobility, to improve your shoulder performance, and hopefully knock out some of that shoulder pain by attacking some of the hidden features that you maybe didn't realize were there. So as always, I hope that was really useful for you guys. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. But until next time, we'll see you soon. Bye.